than for you to say, okay, well, I'm not going to say what you want to say.
Because somebody always will take that opportunity.
Someone will always take that opportunity. Well, we're going to give our viewers the opportunity to be interactive here with us. We want to know what you think, not only about Michael and his book and his viewpoints, but all about these talk shows that are out there these days. Who in your mind really stands out? I want to know whether you like them or if you despise all of these talkers. Are they just talking to hear themselves talk, or do they really make sense of what's happening in the world for you? If you want to tell us what you think, a couple of different ways that you can do it. You can always email us here, and you can log on to csnphilly.com and then put in It's Your Call or IYC under the search button there. Then you can leave me a comment. While you're there, you might want to take our web poll as well. It's a non-scientific survey, but we're asking which of the 3 networks actually has the best talkers. Be curious to see what Mike thinks about this, because he's been on all of them. Of course, if you're unable to get through, you can always email me directly at tcn_IYC@cable.comcast.com. We are on Facebook, MySpace, and YouTube. And I have gone to the Facebook pages to ask folks what they think about Michael Smerconish, his perspective, and the talk show industry. So we're going to take some of those calls, questions in just a moment. But first, I'm going to go to the telephone lines, because I do have a couple of people who have called in to talk with Michael. Let's take our very first call of the night, and it would be from Carol. Hey, Carol, how are you?
I'm good, Lynn, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us on this edition of It's Your Call. Do you have a question or a comment for Michael?
Yeah, Michael, I really like your work. I like to hear your different views on stuff. And I wanted to know, do you talk about politicians and the difficulty in obtaining earmarking if you're not in their circle in your book?
Do I talk about earmarkings?
For people who do not have special interest.
Right. My thought on that is that folks who don't have special interests need to be represented as well. One of the things that I advocate in the book is for term limits. I mean, that's one of the substantive chapters in the book. I think that the individuals who represent us ought to be capable of earning a living in the private sector. They ought to be grounded. They ought to have those real life experiences that we all have without the bubble of Harrisburg or Trenton or Washington, D.C. And I want them out there earning a living, because if they're out there earning a living, they will be less beholden to those interests that she's referring to.
They don't always have to be worried about the re-election cycle and looking for money from people that they don't want to offend.
Exactly.
Okay. How does that sit with you, Carol?
That was good, Michael. Thank you, and I look forward to reading your book.
Thank you.
It's a good one. You're going to like it. Thanks very much, Carol. I appreciate the call. You talk about politicians. A lot of them are mentioned in this particular book. And as I was reading it, of course, I recognized many of them who had been on this program as well. And I thought, okay, it's fine when he's saying something good about them. How about when he disparages one of them or disagrees with one of them? Is he thinking, I've probably seen the last of that guy or gal on my show? Do you ever worry about that?
I think I run the radio program the way you run your television program. I'm not a hanger-upper. I'm really not. I love the dialogue. So to be rude to a guest or to be rude to a caller is to cut them out of the circle, and that's really not what I'm trying to do. I have a viewpoint. I will express it, but I hope I'm doing it in a manner that is not going to be offensive to anybody. So there have been very few instances where I would have to think long and hard about it, where something ended on an ugly note and that person was never coming back.
You had a story in the book, though, and we won't tell everyone all the details so they'll get it and read it, but you actually had to have someone on your show as a favor to another friend that you really did not want on the show. How uncomfortable was that? Very.
This is what we refer to as the friends and family plan. And I don't mind naming the person. It was Steve Lopez. I mean, right now, this hit movie, this Soloist, is based on his book. And what's even stranger is that the person who asked me if I would please bring him on is a guy who himself once walked out of my studio on live radio telling me to F this, F that, and F your father. So life is a funny thing, because the F-bomb artist is the one who later asked me to have Lopez on, and I did it.
So, see, you just never close the door completely.
Right.
What goes around comes around. That movie's supposed to be spectacular.
I know.
You'll probably have him back again.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm sure that when you were using the F-bomb, you were talking about Facebook.
Correct.
So if you are on Facebook and you want to react to anything that we do here on It's Your Call, we'd love to hear from you. We're going to take a quick break. If you are on the telephone line, we're going to ask for you to stay put. We're going to come back to you in just a moment. More with Michael Smerconish, and we'll get his take on the big talkers, not just at his station, but all across the country when we come back.
I think some of them are a little excessive. They try to, act like they know what's going on and act like they can predict what's going to happen in the economy, and they really can't.
I think it's overdone. They kill it. It's like the same thing over and over and over again.
Not to name names, but I just don't like when they get really angry and mean and nasty. Just like a little bit of open-mindedness.
I don't really value them as something for news, but they're entertaining, so they're all pretty equal in my eyes.
Lynn Doyle's jewelry provided by David Craig Diamonds and Fine Jewelry, Newtown, Pennsylvania.